We're gonna miss you, Kaicho. We're gonna miss you, Dudu. Hey, good morning, motherfuckers. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies. And today I'm going to do a movie review on Rashomon. I'm sorry if I butcher some Japanese here. Rashomon is a film directed by Kurosawa Akira, one of the greatest and most well-known directors of all times. This film is released in 1950 and it is considered as one of the most important films in Japanese cinema because it essentially brought the knowledge of Japanese cinema to the West, and people started learning more about Japanese films ever since this film is released. This film is not completely original as it is adapted from a short story called In a Grove written by Akutagawa Ryunosuke in the year 1922. And then 27 years later, after World War II, we have Rashomon. And yeah, essentially the film is about a guy who got murdered and his wife went missing. And there were 4 people who were involved in this incident, but each and one of them were telling a different story. So we have no idea what is the truth, and we don't know who's lying, and actually maybe all 4 of them are lying, and that's very likely. And first of all, let's just take a moment here and appreciate the poster. The Criterion Collection poster for Rashomon has got to be one of my favorite Criterion posters of all times. Like, oh my god. Just usually when white color is used, it's just empty space, but in this poster it's like a very strong beam of light, and that's just really beautiful. But anyways, back to this film. I feel like this film is more of an allegory film than a kind of narrative heavy or character heavy film that usually I would really enjoy. So at the end of the day, this film does not follow a regular film structure or anything. It doesn't exactly have a climax. It doesn't exactly have a main character. It's just the same thing happening, but in 4 different perspectives and 4 different versions of it, essentially. It actually kind of reminds me of 1941 Citizen Kane. I don't know if Citizen Kane is partially the inspiration for this film or not. And Citizen Kane is also kind of similar in that the entire film is basically told in flashbacks, and we're trying to reconstruct the story of the rise and fall of a man through these flashbacks. But in Rashomon, it's also told in flashbacks, but it's really different in that we're looking at the same story, but each version of the story is different because they're all lies. And it doesn't matter who is telling the truth. What is the truth? It doesn't matter. Ultimately, this film is about how humans lie. All humans do is lie. They're all liars. Uso. And, yeah. There are a lot of moments in this film where it feels like a silent film, and that's because this film is in some ways a tribute to 1920 silent films, and so that's intentional. And I also thought this film has a really interesting message. At first I thought this is kind of cynical of a film, like at the end everybody's lying and nobody's good, everybody's morally bankrupt. But at the very, very end of the film, it sort of redeems itself, and I don't know, there are many people who really analyze this ending, and it's like, oh, maybe the ending is still cynical, but from what this movie presents itself to be, the ending is actually surprisingly heartwarming, and I actually kind of like that. Now, That being said, though, this film is not perfect. This is a film released in 1950, so obviously its quality is very different from the movies nowadays. I've I haven't watched many movies from the 40s and the 50s, but after the film noir course I took last year, I have watched a bunch of films from the 40s and 50s, and quality wise, this film is just okay. I think the acting style takes some time to get used to, especially Mifune Toshiro. Mifune Toshiro is in Seven Samurai, and he plays a really playful, sort of impulsive, wild character, a rapscallion, if you will. And in this in this movie, he pretty much plays the same character. He's still very playful. He shouts. He does like a very quiet movement, and then does something very dramatically, and it's kind of odd. He would laugh maniacally, and then he would jump around on both feet, and it's sometimes it does get a little annoying, but at the same time, it's not that damaging of a factor to the film. Like it doesn't completely ruin my enjoyment to the film or anything. It's just an acting style that takes some getting used to. Another problem I have with this film is the pacing. Now, it's not that slow paced of a film, but there are scenes where the same action is continuing for a very long time, when the scene itself is supposed to be somewhat intense and sort of action packed. And in that case, the pacing might be a little bit too slow. But I think the music is okay. The cinematography is certainly pretty great, especially the fact that you're trying to film in a forest in the 1950s, and the camera equipments are not really that advanced, and you have all these lighting issues. The cinematography, especially in the lighting department, this film is actually doing really well. And yeah, aside from that, I don't have much else to say about this film. I will definitely rewatch this someday in the future, but for now, I'm enjoying it. I think it's a pretty good film. I don't think it's that enjoyable, but I think it's still a really interesting one, and it is a good one, most definitely. I am giving Rashōmon a light 8 out of 10. So, have you watched Rashomon from 1 to 10? How much did you rate it? Like it, and subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. As per usual, by the end of every month, I will be watching and reviewing a Kurosawa Akira film. So, the next one coming up would be Ikiru, 1952. And actually, since if I really want to watch one Kurosawa film at the end of every month, it's gonna take me forever. So maybe in the next month, maybe I'll review two. Maybe, just maybe.